Hello, everyone. Um, this is a MCT focused webinar on transforming training with AI. My name is Barry Heidowitz. I'll be sharing my contact info in case you have any questions about the webinar or any training material that's available from Extreme Labs, and I'll also include links. Otherwise, I'll help Tiago out and keep an eye out for questions. And otherwise, with that, I'll hand it over to you. So thank you.
Hi, welcome everyone. Okay, to just our webinar here today. I'm just going to talk a little bit about how you can transform, your training with AI. And basically, the big idea that I have here is that how we can empower, Microsoft certified trainers, and you can elevate your training with this cutting edge technology that we currently have in our hands. And of course, look, there's way more to come. AI, it's just beginning, so there's a lot of innovation coming, on a daily basis. I would like to say about AI and about Microsoft technologies that will also incorporate AI. So there's a lot new coming, but let's just talk about what we have today, okay? So, for people that don't know me, my name is Tiago. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm also an MVP for Microsoft Azure for the past 9 years, MCT for, I think I was just, by the way, returning back from the MVP summit in Redmond, so the headquarters of Microsoft, and I was just discussing with a bunch of MCTs how many years we were, MCTs, and I was like, oh my God, I just started counting. Yeah, it's almost 19 years, okay? So that's almost like a life as an MVP, an MCT. So that was fun because we kind of reach, all together at a big number, was a 3-digit number if we sum all of our years of MCT. So that was a quite a nice conversation. But yeah, so I'm also work as a cloud architect and advisor, or more precisely, I've changed this to cloud and AI architect because I'm also leading a lot of AI projects where the main goal is, in the end, become more productive by using artificial intelligence. I'm also a trainer, as many of you here on this call, Microsoft certified trainer, and I teach basically Azure and AI topics. Also, a little bit of security, mainly on the identity space or in the cloud space. Um, and I like to also speak at all kinds of events that they range from the local meetup, okay, up to things like, for example, Microsoft Ignite, Microsoft Build, etc. And I'm also a content author, so I like to author content, that other trainers they use in ILT, or I just put some content out there so that my students can just consume that content. And yeah, I'm based in Lisbon, Portugal, by the way, and I love to travel. So something more about me, just very quickly. My current stacks are like AI and Azure, and just a little curiosity that I I never put this in my CV back then. I'm not going to put it now because it's pretty old. But I actually work in AI in like the 1990s, okay? Like 1999 to be more precisely, 2000, where I actually were working in an investigation center about artificial intelligence. This involved a lot of Lisp, and as you can see here, a lot of parentheses. For people that know Lisp, they kind of get the joke. And that was fun, but I actually, back in the days, AI was in what we call a winter of AI, so there was not that much investment. So it was not like the most attractive, you know, um, technology to work with, to be honest, an area. So I actually needed to find, a paying job, and I went to work and as a regular, IT career like most of you have. I love to travel. I'm actually a global traveler, and I have like a kind of a superpower that a lot of people, at least they say it's a superpower, but actually I don't suffer from jet lag. Okay. So I was, for example, like I was saying for people that just joined the call, I just came yesterday from Seattle. I'm in Lisbon. It's 8 hour difference. And, I just went to bed at my regular time. I wake up at my regular hour, which is 6 a.m. in the morning, and I was good to go, And, 6 a.m. was still like 10 in Seattle. So, yeah, and I'm here, and I was chatting with some friends that we just came all together from Seattle, and everyone's like, oh my God, Tiago, how do you can do this? They are suffering. I'm so sorry about them, but, it's just something that I never had a problem with. I can actually adjust very, very quickly. But let's go. Let's talk about cool stuff. What's our agenda? So I'll have just a quick intro like, hey, what is AI? How AI is actually revolutionizing training, because, this is specific to training today here. And some practical use cases for Microsoft certified trainers, some of the ethical considerations of AI in training, because to be totally honest with you, I love AI. Look, I'm using it all the way, but we actually need to sit down and ask ourselves about, this ethical considerations that we have here. And also the future of AI, and, then some conclusions and some takeaways. So there's a bunch of outcomes that we have here. I'm not going to read this, but the idea is, to enhance your awareness about AI, some practical knowledge, give you some confidence on, adopting artificial intelligence, talk about some of the tools that you can use, be aware of the ethical concerns, and kind of build an action plan in all of this. In the end, I want that you can have the chance to sit down and, just actually create an action plan on how to use AI so that you can be more productive. Okay. So let's talk about, introduction to AI by, using this, which, by the way, this is actually for Market Stands Markets. It's a research and market organization that they just say that by 2025, so, this year, okay, we're here, the global AI in education market is expected to reach $24 billion. So actually, that's a big number, okay? So if you're not using it, there are a lot of other organizations that are already using this, and they are transforming the way that they teach, and also students, the way that they learn. So definitely, sit down and see how you can incorporate this, because if you're not, your competitors will, and, you'll stay behind. So what is the role of a Microsoft certified trainer in this AI age? Well, definitely leading, okay? So trainers, they are key to prepare the learners for all this AI driven world. And I'm seeing, like classes on Copilot, for example, where, yeah, definitely you need to know a lot about Copilot, and you can lead and you can teach AI technologies like that to, to other, for your learners, for your students. There's also the opportunity here. So AI, provides this opportunity so that you can enhance as a trainer in how to deliver content, and how to engage with learners, achieve outcomes. So, for example, the other day I was just, using ChatGPT, just to demo some things. And then I remember, hey, let me just ask ChatGPT here, look, I need some extra ideas how I can engage with my learners. I told them, the prompt was a little bit more than just this. I told them, to give it some context. Hey, I'm teaching this class. I'm actually already doing this. How can I get more engagement out of my students? And he actually gave me like 4 or 5 ideas that, yeah, like 2 of them I was like, yeah, I can't do that. But the other 2 were like, yeah, those are actually pretty nice. And I was like, so let me grab those and let me see, how I can, definitely use this to improve this. And actually, it worked quite well. It was just some ideas. When I read that, I was like, yeah, I can do this. I don't need you to explain me more on how to operationalize that. I can actually do it. That's not a problem. But that was pretty cool. So stuff that we can actually do. And of course, to get ready. So as a Microsoft certified trainer, you are like in this very, very unique position to work with cutting edge technologies from Microsoft and even other vendors. You work in tech, and actually you're very, very used, okay, on how to work with all of with all this technology. So yeah, great chance. Just go for it. Because you have already your mindset always prepped to learn new stuff. And so there you go. Great point, great area that you can just go and start to learn how, to build things with it. So great point there. Challenges that we have now, because there are challenges, there's traditional training. There's a lot of people that they don't want to change things. Hey, Tiago, this is how it is. We don't want to change. And you see a lot of, ILT instructors, suffering today to get work. And you see a lot of, learning organizations that they are also struggling because, they're still many years behind. They still want to teach what they were comfortable and they don't want to change. But the market changes, okay? So you actually need to go and adapt yourselves. It's just how the market works. So challenges that we have when we are talking about this traditional training. There is limited personalization, okay? So it's like that one size fits all, got it? And there's this training about, topic A, and basically no one else is actually going to you're not going to adapt to the student, to that individual learning that they want to have, the progress, because some students, they learn very quickly, others not so much. They actually need a little bit more time. Are you going to leave those behind? Are you going to just leave the ones that learn pretty quickly, basically stopping not doing anything because you're helping students that struggle? And as a trainer, I'm always struggling, right, with these decisions. Then we have the time intensive process, right, that we spend a lot of time in admin tasks like presence management and do a report about this class. Also other tasks that we do, like create content, grade assignments, managing our schedules. And look, even before this call, I was just with my calendar, and I was actually managing something on my calendar. But, I have tools that are based on AI that can actually help me doing this. So I'm spending less time than I used to in doing tasks like that, okay? There's also the scaling issue. It's really hard to deliver quality training to a large, right, audience, to a diverse audience. And that's another issue that we have. And engagement, like I was talking about. And I think give me a thumbs up, by the way, if you don't feel that engagement, it is always here, okay, a challenge, okay? Because for me, it is always a challenge that I have with my classes is engagement from students when I'm doing virtual classes. Also when I'm doing in person a little bit less, right? But I'm still getting some struggles in terms of engagement. So, hey, how we can, work out that. So this gives me a lot of opportunities to leverage and use AI. Like, for example, personalization at scale. I can actually tailor learning experiences, okay, for individual learners. And then, of course, if they have a hard time understanding some concept, I can basically create like on the fly, on like just because, they're just doing this on demand kind of, hey, look, you have the need for, for this extra content because you're not understanding the concepts of this bit here. Practical example. I'm teaching Azure networking, okay? And I'm teaching someone about, hey, you have this and you have some VNets and some stuff like that. And that person is struggling to understand this. So I can do some on-the-fly questions about like 101 networking. And if I see that the person doesn't get it, I can actually advise before you even go for cloud networking, okay? Maybe you need to know 101 networking, correct? And hey, maybe we have like some extra content here for you. There you go. So that's actually pretty cool because we can actually teach those bases, okay, to that student. That's actually pretty cool. Automation to bring efficiency to your job as a trainer. And like I said, there's a lot of work in things like, grading, generating reports, teaching. So stuff like this. And yes, actually, automation is actually king on this bit. Then we also have improved engagement. So there you go. We can have like a chatbot, okay, a virtual assistant that are basically, our students can actually just question that. Because, for example, imagine that this was me teaching a class here today. I'm doing demos, right? I do a lot of demos. And if I have students asking me like a lot of things at the same time, I can only handle a few, correct? As if I'm doing demos and if I'm doing class management, okay, I can deal X number of students, but when you have those very, very large classes, and I don't know if some of you teaches those, that we have like 80, 100, 200 people there, as a single trainer, I can't handle that. So we have usually, someone else there helping on the chat, etc. But we can actually have AI, doing that job. Maybe, not all the questions will be answered by AI today, but at least a great chunk of them, might be answered, because there's always a common set of questions that, they're pretty kind of easy, okay, to generate responses on and kind of automate that. So more things that we have here, data-driven insights, okay? So AI can analyze, basically the data then, that learner has provided when it is learning. And for this, you might need like some kind of LMS, something like that. And, help you as a trainer, like with AI reports. So actually building something like this. And you can actually have some AI reports about, your students. And for example, I have AI reports about, hey, Tiago, this student here, let's just call it John, John, was doing this, but, he's actually struggling on this topic in here. So maybe, tomorrow when classes starts with this, I can actually talk with John and say, hey, John, maybe you want to have some, questions, answers about this topic. So we can actually help, John to be better on those specific topics. Okay, so that's actually pretty cool that what we can do. So now let's talk a little bit about growing the demand for what I call future-ready skills. It's not me calling, it's the market, but it's a very, it's a word, like an expression that we use in the market for, skills that are going to be needed in the future. And if we see this, and we see AI is actually not going to change the job requirements because it's actually already doing it today. And as we can automate things, we can use technologies, like ChatGPT, for example, and a bunch of other AI chatbots. We can use tools like Microsoft Copilot that integrates inside, the Office suite and things like this. And other co-pilots, okay, for integrating with other technologies, other products, other services. This is going to create a demand for skills on that, okay? And we actually need to know how, we can get skilled as, general workers on the market. So this is where trainers and learning, it's going to play, like a very important role in all this. Because, like I said, we are in the forefront of, technology, and we are the ones that will know how to handle this kind of things. So making it's essential, to integrate artificial intelligence in training, okay, so that we can actually stay relevant as trainers in the market. Even if you're not going to train, specifically a pilot or something like that, it's actually super important for you to have a good notion on how AI works, because like it or not, you're going to be touched, okay, by AI, okay? So you actually need to know this. So why MCTs need AI today, okay? Because this is going to improve your value. It's going to increase your value as a trainer, because you're going to be more efficient, you're going to be more effective, and you can scale your training solutions. Let me just talk about one thing. For example, there is one that I use Microsoft Copilot a lot, for example, to answer emails. So even today, I got an email from someone saying, hey, Tiago, can you teach, AI 102 during this week? correct? I was like, okay, I could go to my calendar, correct, and check if I'm available, check the time zone, because this is for a virtual delivery, um, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, and then, basically draft an email saying, Mr. Customer, thanks for reaching out. Yes, I'm available on that date, or in my case, unfortunately, I'm not available on that date, but, I'm available on the week prior to that. Okay, is there any chance that we can make it? But that's if you see it's just one email and answering another and another. You take sometimes hours, right, of your day just to answer emails. With, Microsoft Copilot as an example, there's other tools that do something similar, but Microsoft Copilot can get access and will get access to your agenda, to your calendar, and actually can check this for you. And you can actually draft an email, okay, to respond to this request in like seconds instead of minutes. You might say, Tiago, is just a little bit. Yeah, sure, but now multiply that for thousands of emails that you probably get per month, and just do the math. Okay, how much faster it is to answer emails like this. So there you go. Another point here that we have here is embracing AI. It's going to ensure that you can meet the expectations of the tech-savvy learners and organizations. We always have those very tech-savvy, learners that, they want to see AI stuff. They want you to use these new technologies, and you're going to get huge thumbs up and huge, better evaluations, okay, because of that. Even the other day, I got a comment from one of my students. Hey, Tiago was great training, and, actually makes a reference of me, that I was using a tool with AI to help the experience of that class. And of course, if you're a Microsoft certified trainer, it's always good to be aligned with the vision of Microsoft. And, this is the vision, is AI, 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 AI. So actually it's good, okay, to this vision of Microsoft, which is empower every person and every organization to achieve more. Microsoft doesn't say, I'm saying using AI, okay? So that's always a nice one here to have. So let's change gears here a little bit here. And by the way, if you have any questions or any comments, I'm kind of moderating here the chat. And, I'm happy to, more than happy to, to get some comments and some questions here on the chat, okay? So let's just talk a little bit about how AI can, just revolutionize here training today, okay? So like I said, we can have this adaptive learning paths. That's the technical name that we use for this. And, very simply is to have artificial intelligence that can analyze the behavior of that student. Like I was saying, we have someone trying to learn cloud networking, and he doesn't know networking yet. Sure, you as a trainer, you do this today, right? It's like, Mr. John, maybe you should go and you should learn this thing first. We do this. But what about if we could have something that could be automated to do this? And, if the student is, imagine, learning something not in class, is learning, just after the class, there's like an LMS where, it has some extra content to learn. There's also ILT, but, after class is learning something, and the AI can actually detect this and can actually recommend this on the fly for that student. You as a trainer, you might get notified about that, and depends on how the platform can be built. But I would like to say that, we're going to do that, and that could be done. Okay, so that's awesome, I think at least. Okay, dynamic content recommendations. Okay, so we can actually have curated supplementary material. Videos, exercise-based. Imagine you're training, preparing someone for a Microsoft exam, extra practice questions, okay? So something like this that we can actually, dynamically create, the learning journey of that person. So that will be something really, really cool to have. Enhancing learner engagement. Okay. So another one is this AI driven chatbots. So that's something that I have. Okay. And I actually have a chatbot that I built for some specific, content. Okay. So their knowledge of the world is a little bit limited to that class. That, we can actually have that assistant and people can go, for example, here on a Teams call and can actually say at, the name of the chatbot. Let's just call it chatbot. Hey, at chatbot. What about if I want, how can I build, like, imagine a virtual network in Azure? And actually, it's going to tell you some instructions on how you can do this, and even going to maybe give you a link or two from Microsoft Learn so that you can actually, learn more on your own. Or it's just you can ask, hey, if I have two virtual networks, can I communicate from one virtual network to the other? And it's going to tell, well, by default, not, but you can peer networks, like, and some other options that you can to connect those two virtual networks. Okay. This is awesome, and now expand this to other, other areas, other knowledges, not just virtual networks, but, like dynamics from Power Platform, etc. So all this could be actually done. So that's actually pretty cool what we can do for this. And we can also have these immersive experiences. This is when we can have AI simulations and gamification so that we can actually improve our basically engagement of our students, which is also, some of you thumbs up on this before. I think it's a challenge that every trainer has, is this engagement. Okay, so something like, for example, Microsoft Mesh or similar technologies, for like mixed virtual reality on training sessions, you can actually build this immersive experience with that. Another one that I really love is the inclusiveness on training for global audiences. And for example, I speak Portuguese, I speak English, so I'm usually fine with those two audiences. But, sometimes I get audiences from, other countries, and their, let's just say, level of English is not the best. So for them to be here and attending, for example, a session like this, it will be, just not great. So it will be actually, a little bit hard for them. So what we can actually do on this and to make this is, for example, using AI translation tools. So that actually could be done. And let me just demo this here. And let me just see what I have here. Because I'm actually going to turn this on. So let me just see if I can actually use this here today. So let's put this in German today, okay? Let me just see here. And change my microphone. Okay. So I don't know if some of you know German, but if you know German, maybe you can go on the chat and say if this is okay or not. But I'll just leave this on here for a few seconds so that you can actually see this. So I'm speaking in English, and this is actually creating me live, basically subtitles in German. That's actually pretty cool. And this is a feature that all of you have access. This is on PowerPoint, okay? I can even change the screen here to my, presenter view. And this is this little button that we have here. And you just need to click to have this on, and then right click, and then go to subtitle settings, more settings. And then this is where you have to define. I selected the spoken language as English, and I have the subtitle into German, okay? And then if you have more than one mic, which is my case, so it's always better to choose the best mic for this. Okay, so if you don't want this turned on, I'm going to turn this off right now. You can actually just toggle this, and there you go. Stuff get back to, let's just say, normal. Okay, with that subtitle, so those subtitles are gone from there. So actually, the other day, I was doing this for a Spanish audience. It needed to be in English, delivered in English. Okay, that's what the customer selected. But I had like 80% of my audience was Spanish. And some of them, they were having like actually a really, really hard time getting me and understanding English because they struggle with English. I just turned this on and everyone loved it. I was like, oh my God, Tiago, yeah, there's a thing here or two that's not correct, but look, who cares? It's so much better now because I can actually follow what you're saying very, very well. So I was like, okay, well, thanks for that. I just kind of pushed a button, I'm actually not doing this. But yeah, this is something that, everyone has. It's not a tool that is expensive, that you need to license or something like that, okay? So there you go. So also other things that you can use this for is for, people that have, actually a disability, they don't hear, or so then they don't hear that well, can actually use this also, to incorporate those persons. So, and include, okay, those persons. So that's actually pretty cool what we can do with this. More things in here. What do we have here? So training effectiveness. Definitely we can have higher retention rates and we can scale our solutions. How? So higher retention rates, because this tailored content made, for specific learners, etc., people will be more interested, right? Like the example that I was talking about, John. So John is struggling to understand cloud networking. We tailor something for him around 101 networking, like very basic networking knowledge, like network fundamentals. And because he learned that, he's like, okay, now I can go back and I can actually learn, the content that I have here in my hands. And he can actually learn a lot better that if it was you, don't you feel you will be way more motivated on that? Definitely, right? So for example, I'm currently learning quantum computing. And it's really, really hard, to be totally honest with you. It's not Quantum 101 because that part I've fortunately done. I'm actually at a very, very deeper level. And, this week I had a meeting, with some people from the research team from Microsoft Quantum. So basically all the ones that created Majorama 1 and things like this. And they actually recommended, some books for me to read. And the guy told me, like, Tiago, you have to read this one first. Okay, if you really want to understand this at that level, you need to read this one first. So yeah, I bought the book. I have the book in my iPad, and I'm actually starting to read that. But my God, even that, it's not easy. Okay, there is like some things here and there that I'm always researching about what does this mean? What is actually this? And of course, I'm using AI tools, to explain me this topic, what is this, etc. And it takes me a lot of time, to actually read each page of that book. But hey, I've researched and there is no AI thing for this yet. So yeah, I have to do that. Other thing is what is scalable solutions. So like I said, when you're training to larger audiences, if you want to support your students, your learners, yeah, you're going to, lower the quality because it's if you want to support everyone, all the other ones are just going to be stopped not doing anything because you're supporting someone. And if we have a very large audience, we actually need to have more other trainers like co-trainers that can help you, helping those students when you're helping others, when you're delivering content, look, whatever, correct? But with AI, you can actually, have some AI agents that they will, help you on that. So with this, let's jump and let's talk about some practical use cases. And by the way, if you want, just go on the chat. Let me know some use cases where you see that AI could be actually interesting, right? Like, let me know. Like, hey, Tiago, I think, AI, could be like awesome for this bit, So let me just use the chat and, let me know about that. But I'll let you know some. I think we already covered this one here. Personalized learning journeys, okay? So we can create adaptive learning journeys using content from like, Microsoft Learn, things like that, okay? And we can tailor the experience for like beginners, for intermediate, advanced users, and learners. Look, all this could actually be done for all those levels that we have. The idea is dynamically to, create, you should read this, you should view this video, you should do this demo, or, exercise lab, or you should see this demo, something like that, okay? But another one is automating course creation. And look, I know there's a lot of people that will not agree with me if they just see the title of this, but let me go further, okay? The idea is to leverage, for example, generative AI tools like OpenAI, GPT models, or even Microsoft Copilot to develop not the whole content. That's not what I'm saying, okay? So bear with me on this. But if you want to develop a quiz, okay? If you just want to do like a small practice assessment, you want help doing a presentation slide. And then, look at it, question it, and make your decisions. Is this okay or not? Because sometimes, and look, I use this a lot. The other day, hey, I need some questions because I'm teaching, AZ400. Generate like a couple of questions about CD in Azure DevOps. And I actually generated like 5 questions, from which 2 were okay. The other 3 were not, one was not actually correct, okay? And the other 2 were super, super simple, super basic. And they were not wrong, but I'm not going to use this with my students. I'm not going to lose their time because, they were so simple. This is not going to be on the exam at this level. So, don't want that. Okay. But you can actually generate, very cool things. So let me actually, just show you. I'm just using Chat GPT. I could use Copilot, look, whatever. This could be, so let's just do a prompt here. Like, hey, hey, I'm teaching a course on AZ, 900, Azure Fundamentals. And then I need you to generate for me. Oh, there you go. For me. Let's just say 5 practice questions based on the AZ, 900 objectives. Very basic prompt. This is not, I didn't use any prompt, engineering techniques for this. So actually pretty bad. But let's see, just generates here like, hey, question number 1, you need to deploy a web application, ensure that scales automatically based on demand. Which services could you use to do this? Okay, it's not the best question because you could use this, you could use this, you could use this, Maybe we need to tune up, okay, the question a little bit. Okay, maybe I could just add something on this. I want, to be a fully managed solution, something like that, so that it can actually gives me the correct answer being Azure App Services. Okay. But look, great question. I think, at least for me, this is great. I can work with that question on this level. And, generated another one. I'm not going to cover all this, but you get the point, correct? So another thing that you can actually do is, let's just run PowerPoint, okay? Let's start with a blank presentation. Let's fire up Microsoft Copilot. And then I could just actually come in here and just say here, hey, I'm teaching Azure Fundamentals, and I need you to generate a presentation on, Azure Virtual networks. So again, very basic prompt, nothing fancy on that, etc. We need to create presentation about Azure Network Fundamentals. Okay, now let's just do this. So, and if we do this, this is actually generating, here some outline for this. I'm like, introduction to Azure networking, see here, this, and let's imagine, oh, yeah, this is perfect, it's fine. Let's see, generate slides and see what this comes up with this. And this is actually going to generate some slides. Good or not, I don't know yet. But, whatever it is, it's actually going to generate actually a bunch of slides, okay? And there you go. So it's generating. And of course, then you can change all the look and feel of this. Okay, actually, I like this style here, okay? See, overview of networking services, talk about VNets, load balancers, traffic manager. Then, it talks about IPs, etc. Look, I don't like the style of like this, but actually has, a lot of cool stuff in here and actually images that are not that bad, okay, for what we are teaching. So yeah, good stuff, okay, that we actually have in here, okay. So there you go. That's another example, okay, of things that we can use to generate more content, okay. So there you go. So I now leave to you so that you can go and you can actually just use some more stuff. So I'm seeing a question here from Popola. Says, how can AI aid us in marking or text-based tests or evaluation assignments giving to the students during training? Okay, so for this, so you have the text-based test. Okay, so, well, if it's an LMS, it's actually already going to do that for you. So you probably know, the answers and if they are correct or not. So that will be something that we can actually automate, like multiple choice questions or something like that. If it's open questions, where actually people are actually typing text, you can actually use LLMs, okay, to see this. You probably will give, some knowledge base to the large language model saying, hey, look, these are just examples, okay, of correct answers from me. This is what I want people to talk about. This topic it's relevant to talk about. This topic is relevant to talk about. So basically something that you build when you have to build like an exam and you have to build a solution of that exam for open questions. Usually say, in order for you to get the max score of this question, right? It's a question that is worth 100 points, being points, whatever, right? 100 points, you can say they get 10 points if they make a reference to this. They get 10 other points if they make this association with that. You can actually teach this to the LLM, and the LLM will interpret it that. Okay, so that could actually be something that could be done with, with this. Okay, so there you go. And actually, if it's like for example, a written text, like end written text, you can actually take pictures and actually translate or transcribe that into, typed text, so that the LLM can then, work on that. Okay, so that will be something that definitely we could do. Also, another things that we could do, and there's like this second bullet point that we have here, like for example, generate summaries of technical content. For example, I do some, some sessions for a customer that I have, which is just like 1 hour sessions from here, sometime here and there. And actually, we're using Teams for that. We record the sessions, but actually, to be honest, the number of people that actually watch the recordings is minimal to none. But what I have done is, we can actually, in the end, transcribe our session, generate like a recap of that session, and actually we send that to every student. Even if you were not on the session, if you were on the session, so everyone that is registered, we actually send you this. At least you know what we have talked about, like the big points of that session, what they were. Okay, so that'll be something, and that's actually totally automated. I don't do that. Okay. So I don't have to, just type, like a paragraph, some bullet points of what we have learned today. And maybe it's 3 or 4 paragraphs plus, 5 or 6 lists of bullet points. It's all, Copilot that takes care of that bit for me. Other stuff is, scaling training delivery. We kind of already talked about this. Multilingual translations. We saw that. Text to speech using, Azure text translation service. That could be a great idea for this. Gamification. So AI can introduce gamification elements. We can create like a real-time leaderboard, for something. People will do some questions, some challenges, some labs. And we can actually, have this get like some awards based on the learner performance and things like that. Got it? So for example, I actually building something for this, which is we're in a class, imagine like the traditional ILT class, and we have, some questions that we can launch for students to answer. Students answer to those questions. They get points, because they answer the questions or they answer correctly, the question to be more precise. And we can actually have like a live, dashboard for those students. And for example, in our case, in the end, who wins the leaderboard gets an exam voucher. Okay, so that's kind of the idea for this program here. And actually, people get motivated because it's an exam voucher, right? So people actually get super motivated on that. There are some challenges on this, on getting data for example, for the labs when people are finishing the labs and things like that. But yeah, that we're going to work out on that. This is still, to be honest, something to be launched next year by the end of this year, if we can still make it. But yeah, originally it's next year. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that it's need to build something like this, and a lot of trial and error also, things that we're going to build that will not work, things like that. So it's a big challenge that there is here, but you can incorporate bits and bytes of this today if you want. So the concept of gamification. Okay. Another thing that I always like is teams and Copilot. So I actually, with all the struggle that I'm facing too, in the end, Teams is actually a great platform if we, step down with all the problems that we see sometimes that we have, making my machine, which is a Surface 3, it's a Surface Book 3, and then sometimes Teams is consuming all my CPU and I never get why. I refresh the image of my machine and I still have the same problem. But yeah, moving on. Okay. It is great. I can actually have things like live training sessions on it. I can do live captions on Teams. So actually, that demo that I did on PowerPoint, you can actually do this also on Teams. So it's actually possible, to actually also do this on Teams. So I can actually show live captions on Teams. So you just need to go to the More tab, Language and Speech, and say, hey, I want to see live captions. And, there's also the interpreter. So you can actually change, this so that it can actually start to translate this automatically into another language if you're doing this on Teams, okay? Sometimes we're not using Teams, you're using, other technology to deliver this. So PowerPoint, it's kind of a universal one, or even if you're just in the classroom, for example, okay? Usually when I'm in the classroom, I always carry my mics with me. I have like those portable mics. And even the other day I had someone that was in a class. It was not, that good in it was Spanish. And I just said, hey, do you want me to turn this on? Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. I had to mic because I'd like to walk around, the class. And if you don't mic yourself, you're using the laptop mic. You actually need to be very near the mic of your laptop so that you can actually make this work. There's also surveys and quizzes that we can just launch from Teams. I don't see a lot of people using those. Sometimes I have other trainers that said, yeah, look, I never use that. I don't know how it is. Okay, jump on a call with me and we will practice that. So, if you have a colleague, ask a colleague, hey, can you jump on a call with me? Because I need to practice, how this works and things like that. If you don't have a colleague available, you just call me, okay? Send me a message on, LinkedIn or whatever, and I'm more than happy to, to guide you on that and, just to show you and so that you can actually have the opportunity to practice that. That's how I did it. Okay? I just did it with a colleague. Hey, I need to figure out this. Can you join on a session with me? And then, you can also have transcriptions with Copilot, like I said. The only thing is that, yes, for Copilot stuff, there is a license that you need to pay. But to be totally honest, for what it delivers, I think the money and the amount of money that you need to pay for it, it is worth. Okay, I pay for Copilot, and it's one of the best things that I see in terms of license. Okay, from Microsoft. Actually, the value that it delivers is actually pretty good. So we still have like 9 minutes to go. Keep those questions coming if you have them, okay? But now let's very quickly talk about basically ethical considerations that we have with AI. So we need to understand that there is bias on AI models, and that AI system will reflect, okay, the bias that is probably presenting on the training data. There's also bias on the model itself, but all the models have tried really, really hard to not have model bias. So that will be in the algorithm that trains the data. So usually those are not there, but where we have is on the training data. And, we actually need to make sure that that will not happen. An example is an adaptive learning tool. Bias could affect resources that are going to be recommended to a learner. So you might not recommend certain content from a certain resource, like a web application, a website, whatever, because of bias. But actually, that one has great resources. So we actually need to be careful with that. So we should test those AI tools for bias. There are actually, testing frameworks for this that you can actually use for this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's actually really, really good. And regularly review, okay, if the generated outcome, and if you see some differences on this and something that actually it's not, good for what you have. Okay, so important. We also need to talk about data privacy and also security, because AI often relies on learner data so that we can personalize their experiences. This might concern some data usage, okay, storage, protection of that data. So, those are things that we need to look for. We need to be compliant with things like GDPR, HIPAA, other relevant regulations on this. Maybe HIPAA not so much on the learning bit, but, depending on what you're teaching and where you're touching. So be careful on, on this. You can minimize data collection so that you can only have the needed data. That's always a best strategy at first, because when I see this, depending on the business model of those tools, if it is a business model, let's just give this for free. You have to collect lots of data so that you can then make use of that data and you can sell that data. But if you want to build something that can actually run, based on a small fee, something like that, you can actually guarantee that privacy. And one of the things is, hey, I don't need this data to make this work. Why should I keep it, right? Just get rid of that request. Don't have it. And also very clearly communicate, to learners, to trainers, how their data is going to be used. Okay, so yeah, look, we're going to use this just to use the model so that we can best advise you to do this or to do that extra content. Okay, we're not going to do anything else with your data. So that's always very, very important, so that we can make sure that people are aware of that. This leads to transparency, accountability. So, learners and also trainers, they might not fully understand how the AI is making those decisions. What happens is, there's a lot of resistance also on the usage of this technology, and, a lot of disturbance on it. So select AI tools that have what we call XAI, okay? Explainable AI. And this is to be transparent with our learners about what is the role of AI in this solution, and of course, what are the limitations on the AI that we have. And also, there's another concept of dependency on AI, that over reliance on AI might diminish, okay, the role of human trainers, and also reduce the critical thinking problem, those skills in learners. Look, fair point. It's something that, yeah, we should open the conversation and we should talk about this. But I also want to remember everyone about what happened when we started to have the internet, and more specifically search engines. I was actually once in school. I actually deliver, work. I went on a search engine back in the days. I searched for that, got some websites, and I put it, just as bibliographic references, because we had to do that. Like, hey, from where do you took this information, to validate my point? And I just put like a bunch of, websites instead of books, because that's where I got my information. I also got from a few books here and there, but I kind of mostly was websites that I found online and found on the internet. And my professor actually went and gave me a score of 0. It actually disqualified. It was not even 0. I got disqualified on that. And I was like, why? Oh, no, because you cannot use the internet and the search engine for this. I was like, wait, there's nowhere where that information is, okay? And actually, that's what happened. And there was a lot of concerns about people using like Google and, search engines. Oh my God, now people will just use this to do homeworks and, to do, works for school, things like that. Well, a few years later, we have the exact same arguments about AI. Got it? So, you should balance the two things for sure, um, and design courses that can encourage the activation, beyond those AI-driven tasks. So it's on your ends as a teacher, as a trainer. Okay, it's on you. For this, there is the Microsoft Ethical AI Framework. I'm not going to go deep on this, but it kind of basically has 6 pillars, which is fairness, reliability, privacy, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. And, has a lot of information. Search for it, by the way, Microsoft Ethical AI Framework. You will find it very, very quickly using a search engine, and you get the information that, that you need. Because I want to close up here, and I want just to talk about the future as I see in AI in training, and I see personalized or hyper-personalized learning experiences, advanced analytics so that you as a trainer, you can actually understand where your students are struggling. Maybe, next session, you should not do what you planned, but you should do a session on that bit so that you can, your students get improved on that specific area from where they're struggling. You can have AI-driven co-trainers next to you, like a trainer co-pilot thing that could just be there with you, helping, students on the go. You lead, the AI co-lead, okay? And you can have AI as a skill itself, okay? So AI, it's continuing to evolve, and, a lot of trainings today are pretty much AI literacy, like we had back in the days, like IT literacy, but now it's like AI literacy. But I'm sure you start to get more and more and more and more advanced things. But there's a bunch of user-based, okay, that needs to know AI. They needs to know how Copilot works. They need to know how other, AI tools work. There's a bunch of people that need to be trained. Okay, So some takeaways of this, uh, this is going to be a catalytic to transformation in training AI. So as long as we embrace it and we don't see this as something that's going to replace the human element, this is going to be there and you're going to work with it. Okay. AI applications ready for MCTs, started leveraging those. Ethics, you should always guide your AI implementations using ethics. Continuous learning, okay, because you need to stay up to date with AI advancements. Okay, for this, there's the AI blog on Microsoft, might be a great references. There's like Substack elements. There is a bunch of resources out there. I'm sure most of it, that like general like social networks and things like this that you can actually leverage to get some links on on new things that are there that they're coming. Um, and see how AI is going to shape the future of training. I honestly believe that our industry for the next, years is actually going to do a huge shift on how you train and be proactive. Okay, embrace that change. Use the change to be better. Because to be totally honest, there's a lot of other trainers, especially the ones that didn't show up today here. You did the effort to show up here. You're in the right spot. Okay, you care, and you know that this is going to be something. So, okay, congrats. Okay, for all of you to being here, because that's the spirit. Is that this is going to change. So there's a lot of others that are not going to be here. They will not care. And yeah, unfortunately, someone needs to lead this. It's us, okay, that are in this call, that are going to lead the changes. So thank you so much, okay? My name is Tiago, and, this is how we can implement AI and how transformative, training can be. I hope that you enjoyed this, this time. And if you did, you can always follow me. There's the link here, okay? follow.tiagocosta.com. You can find all my social networks, and you can select, the one that best fits your choices, okay? So thank you so much for attending. And if you have last questions, I'm more than welcome, okay? Can stay a few minutes and answer some questions.